Hey gang, welcome back to another video. I kind of just wanted to hop in here because ARTFIGHT is happening in just a couple short weeks. Yeah, literally like a week or so from now, probably less than a week whenever I upload this video now. And I wanted to hop on the bandwagon and kind of talk about it a little bit and kind of, I guess, de-influence you from all the misinformation, and just like, you guys are getting a plethora of information about ARTFIGHT right now, I'm sure, seeing everyone and their mom talk about ARTFIGHT. And that's coming from someone who has done ARTFIGHT for the past 2 years, which is not as long as some of the other people on YouTube, but I like to think that I have some pretty good knowledge about the event. In 2023, I was on Team Werewolves, and I think it was 11 attacks that year. And then in 2024, last year, I was on Team Seafoam, and I only did a couple of attacks that year because I got kind of burnt out and I just kind of had to take a step away. But I plan on coming back in full swing this year. I have a goal of probably like 15 attacks, you know, beat last year's type thing, or beat 2023 type thing. So those are my credentials, if that matters to you whatsoever. And I guess before I hop into it, I should give a brief overview on what ARTFIGHT is, because I'm not going to assume that you know what it is. So in basic terms, ARTFIGHT is a OC and art trading website where every July users are split up into 2 teams, and basically you earn points for your team by drawing characters that belong to users on the other team. And at the end of the month, whichever team ends up with more points wins. For a lot of people, it's not so much about the competition as it is about just like having fun drawing each other's characters. As I said, I just want to de-influence you guys from the different misinformation and like just truckloads and truckloads of things that you've probably been hearing about ARTFIGHT. And so I just wanted to hop in with some tips and just advice that I have about starting ARTFIGHT. So my first tip is a pretty big general one, and it's just to simply do what makes you happy. You gotta think about the fact that ARTFIGHT is supposed to be fun. Like I said, it's not just about the competition. So don't even worry about the points if you're not a competitive person and you feel like the competition aspect stresses you out. Just simply draw what you want to draw. And remember that friendly fire is an aspect of the site that is built in. So if you weren't allowed to do friendly fire, they wouldn't implement it in the site. And friendly fire is 100% acceptable. Just keep in mind that a lot of people, they don't prioritize friendly fire revenges. So don't expect a revenge from a friendly fire, but obviously if you don't really care about that kind of thing, then that doesn't matter. But also remember that it's about drawing other people's OCs. It's not necessarily all about receiving art of your own OCs. So just have fun, draw what you enjoy, and if that means just drawing art from users, drawing characters that belong to users on your team, then so be it. You know, that's a perfectly acceptable way to participate. Next up, the next tip I have is that you can take ARTFIGHT as a learning opportunity. And obviously, you don't have to. This kind of goes along with a lot of the tips that I have in this video. You don't need to take any of my tips as gospel. I'm just kind of thoughts bouncing around in my head. You can take ARTFIGHT as a learning opportunity to draw things that you want to improve on. So like, for example, last year I drew a lot of furries because I wanted to specifically improve on drawing furries. And I feel like that did work, and I feel a lot more confident in my ability to draw furries now. So just like that, you can use ARTFIGHT to just practice drawing things, and then you don't even need to come up with the designs yourself. Boom, you've been given a plethora of character designs that you are being given permission to draw. You just draw people's characters, gift them to them, and then it feels pretty great because not only are you doing something nice for someone else, but also you are improving your own skill at the same time. Next up, I want to advise y'all to take your own pace. So that can mean either you draw several attacks in one day or you just do one illustration per week. And that's different for everybody. Taking your own pace can mean very different things for different people. Just keep in mind that everyone has their own limits, and listen to your body. If you need a break, take a break. And keep in mind as well that there's no minimum required attacks on ARTFIGHT. You don't need to draw a certain number of attacks. You can literally just do one attack and then be done with it if you really want to. And I think a lot of that thought of like, oh, I need to do so many attacks comes from the fact that so many bigger artists, they have like outrageous attack goals. Like I've seen some people have like, oh, my goal is like 50 attacks, or like sometimes I think I've seen people genuinely like 100 attacks, and just that's kind of outrageous. And obviously more power to them for them being able to do that, but not everyone is built the same. So just because your favorite artist has a goal of 100 attacks does absolutely not mean that you also need to. Do not burn yourself out. Go at your own pace, and remember everyone has different limits. The next really big one that I want to point out is do not listen to TikTok. For the love of God, do not listen to TikTok. TikTok has kind of an echo chamber of really awful ARTFIGHT opinions. There's a bunch of content on YouTube talking about how bad TikTok is about ARTFIGHT and how, oh, like, the TikTokification of ARTFIGHT, all that kind of thing. I've seen so many different videos talking about it, and I've educated myself on it a bit, and it's rough out there, guys. Don't listen to everything you see on TikTok. People will tell you that, like, oh, you gotta have a certain kind of art skill to participate in ARTFIGHT. I'm not going to attack you if you have bad art skill. Or like, I don't want to receive attacks from people with bad art, and like, or it's basically just like really bad takes on the spirit of ARTFIGHT, because people seem to forget that, once again, the point of ARTFIGHT is to draw other people's characters and share in the love of creativity, and just like, you know, we're all artists and we're all here creating shit, and we should celebrate that rather than put each other down for not having the same amount of skill. So just don't listen to people on TikTok, because they're kind of stupid, and a lot of people on TikTok, they're drama filled anyway, and they just thrive off of negativity. Don't listen to them. And I think that if you're looking for another community to talk about ARTFIGHT on social media, I think that YouTube has a really good community of artists that engage with ARTFIGHT, and I think that's a really positive community if you're looking for something like that. And now the next two tips I have are kind of about like what to do if you're not getting attacks. And so the first one I have is that if you're not getting attacks, you should make some first moves in order to get people's attention. And by that I mean that, like, sometimes to get people's attention onto your ARTFIGHT profile, you need to attack them. Because the way ARTFIGHT is kind of built, the website's a little confusing, and it's kind of hard to like discover new people if you're not super familiar with the website. So if you just like make your profile, upload your characters, and then you just kind of wait to start receiving attacks, that may not be the most beneficial method for you. And so I highly suggest that you start making some moves to attack other artists in order to get their eyes on your profile, because then you can receive some revenges, and maybe those artists mention your profile to their friends, and then you have their friends attacking you. And it's just, you know, again, the art community is a community. Like, we are all interconnected, and we want to share stuff with each other. So, you know, you can also post on social media. That was my next point. Post on social media about your ARTFIGHT. By posting on social media, you get people to come in that aren't already your followers. So if you put stuff on hashtag ARTFIGHT, hashtag ARTFIGHT 2025, you know, hashtag X versus Y, whatever the teams end up being revealed to be, you get people who are exploring social media to find your account, and then they say, oh hey, I like this person's character designs, I'm gonna attack them. So by posting about your art fight, and that doesn't just mean post your attacks, I mean like post your characters, post like content like this talking about how I prepare for art fight. You know, just make content and post about art fight so that way people become aware of it. And you can also educate people about it, because then when you make posts about it, people will be like, hey, I've never heard of art fight. What is it? And then you get to explain it to them and introduce them to the site, and maybe you'll be one of their first attacks. All of that just to say that sometimes you need to be proactive in your art fight participation in order to get engagement on your profile. My next few tips are kind of about your profile and like how you build the way your user looks like on ARTFIGHT. And so I've been seeing a lot of people post about how to have a cool looking ARTFIGHT profile, whatever, and I think it's important to note that you absolutely do not need a super detailed, fancy looking profile. And as I said, there's been a big increase in like profile customization. At least I've noticed a big increase in it this year. And so these are profiles that have like customized colors and like profile banners and stamps and GIFs, all in very like Tumblr and MySpace fashion. And so while these are definitely like cool to look at and can be really fun to work on, especially if that's kind of your niche, you like to do profile customization type things, definitely don't assume that you need them, because you absolutely don't. I would say a good number of people who are on ARTFIGHT don't even really look at the profiles of the users that they're attacking. They just kind of care about the characters. That's just me though. I don't know if that's reality. That's just kind of how I do ARTFIGHT. I don't necessarily really look at profiles unless it's like a friend of mine. And personally, I've had a pretty bare bones profile for a couple of years now, and I still receive a good amount of attention on my profile as long as I'm being active on the website. Now, this year I am doing a little bit more profile customization, but nowhere near as much as some of the stuff I've already seen other people do, and I just, speaking from experience, it is absolutely not necessary, and I don't feel like you should think you need to do that either, because you'll still get plenty of attention as long as you're being active and engaged with the fight. And along with that, character bios also don't need to be anything fancy. Some artists may find it helpful to read like short bios about characters' personality traits so that they have a better idea of like what kind of poses and expressions to draw them with. But generally speaking, a random person on ARTFIGHT doesn't need to read your character's entire backstory, nor would they necessarily want to. And again, that is just personally me speaking from experience. If it's not someone that I'm friends with, I can't really say that I really care about what a character's entire backstory is. I just care about generally what's their vibe, how can I accurately portray this character's like personality in my illustration, and pretty well all you need for that is like some personality notes, maybe like, I don't know, just brief stuff about their backstory that would maybe be important to what would be need to draw them. But generally speaking, you don't need to have a whole novel in their bio. And you totally can add that if you want to. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. You just you don't need to if you feel like that's a daunting task, because I can totally see that being a daunting task. You do not need to do that. Do not think you need to. And just like the bios, bare bones references for your characters are also fine. I suggest that you have at least a flat colored reference of your character, and ideally this would be a full body illustration, but it could also just be a bust or a waist up drawing. However, I will say, if you're doing a bust or waist up drawing of your character for the reference, do not expect anybody to draw a full body of that character. Basically, don't expect anybody to attack you with a drawing that is a bigger image of your character than what you've provided in your reference, because a good number of people will not want to make up what that character looks like outside of your reference for risk of getting it wrong and maybe offending you, whatever. So people will just draw what they see. So don't do like a bust illustration and then expect people to make up what a character looks like in a full body illustration, if you get what I mean. And the reason I say flat color as well, it should be pretty obvious, but if you have a shaded or like rendered drawing, the colors could look really different if people are like color picking from your reference, which is what a lot of people will do. They'll color pick from your reference. So if you have like intense shadowing on a reference, depending on where they color pick it from, it may be like way darker or way lighter than your reference image, and then the colors end up looking wrong. So you want to make sure you're giving at least a minimally shaded drawing. So like for example, in my character references, I'll put like blushing on their faces, but I'll still leave plenty of like just solid skin tone outside of like their cheeks and knees and stuff. And you can also put like shadows in the hair and stuff, but like in general, just make it clear what the base color is supposed to be. And even if you don't do like a flat color illustration, put like a swatch sheet on their reference page so that people can color pick from the swatch if you don't have a if you have a shaded reference. And then my last tip for your profile is to have a good variety of characters. So if you have more characters up on your profile, then you get a greater chance of receiving attacks and revenges. So I like to have a pretty good variety of different types of characters that have different unique designs, ones that lean more into like cutesy, ones that more lean into like kind of spooky or like edgy designs, so that there's something for everyone to pick from. So basically think of it as if you have more characters on your profile, that increases your size as a target. As an analogy, if someone's like shooting an arrow at a really big target, it'll be easier to hit it. So that analogy kind of relates to you're the target. If you only have one or two characters, that makes you a pretty small target and harder to attack for everybody. But if you are a bigger target with more characters to choose from, then it's easier for more people to attack you. And so if it matters to you that you want to receive a lot of art of your characters, I would advise you put up a lot of characters on ARTFIGHT that are a lot of variety for people to choose from. All of it kind of just boils down to do whatever makes you happy. And that's kind of the sentiment that I put in a lot of these types of videos where, you know, I put in art tips and everything, but remember, art is supposed to be fun. And art is a hobby. We're all here to be creative and celebrate that creativity that we have as artists and creators. So just do what makes you happy. You'd also, like, there's no right or wrong way to do ARTFIGHT, as long as you're participating in the spirit of ARTFIGHT and not like going against any rules. You're doing it right. So, you know, just do what makes you happy, be chill, and yeah. So I don't really have a whole lot more to say about this topic, other than check me out on ARTFIGHT. And along with that, I currently have a Draw This in Your Style challenge that is live. Currently the deadline is set to July 1st, but I may still extend that if I don't receive many entries. So check out my Draw This in Your Style challenge. That's on my Instagram. And my Etsy shop is linked in my description. All my links are in the description, as usual. Check me out on all those links. Support me on Etsy if you want to. My commissions are currently open. All that fun stuff. You know how to do it. You know the drill. Code BNUT for 20% off. All that garbage. So yeah, thank you all so much for sitting here and listening to me yap for a bit. And have a wonderful, wonderful ARTFIGHT. I will be back to chat more about ARTFIGHT later. So thank y'all for hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next one.